Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden, and today we're going to be doing a random, some random stuff. We're going to first talk about pruning clematis, and then we're going to harvest some ornamental millet seeds, and then after that we're going to start prepping our birdhouse gourds to be dried. So I'm definitely at the time of the year where there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of different projects, holidays, there's a lot. So I wanted to first talk about pruning clematis because I've had a lot of questions on that. And so I just wanted to make sure I went over a few of these approaches for pruning clematis so that there's no confusion, so you guys don't cut your clematis at the wrong time of year. Now, clematis are divided up into three basic pruning groups. Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3. So Group 1 is going to be a spring bloomer. So that's anything that's going to bloom on old wood. So what you're going to do for that one is you don't want to prune in the fall and winter. So Group 1's no pruning in the fall and winter because these grow off of old wood. Instead, you want to prune them in the summer after their initial flush of blooming. So if they bloom in the spring, allow them to keep flowering, and then come June or July, go ahead and prune them back and allow them the rest of the season to put on brand new growth so that that brand new growth will be old wood next spring. Super important. Now, Group 1 does not need much pruning at all. You're really just trying to shape it as needed. There's no hard, harsh pruning on it whatsoever. So keep it pretty simple with Group 1s. Now, next is Group 2, which is a repeat blooming clematis. And this is what I have the most of. I have mostly Group 2 clematis. These bloom first on all the old wood, and then secondly on all the new growth. That's why you get 2 bloom cycles with them. So you want to prune them lightly in March, not a lot, just a little bit, removing anything that's dead or doesn't look good, or shaping lightly. And then you want to prune them again after the first flush. And when you do that, so they bloom on the old wood on the first flush, you prune them after that, and that encourages a new round of growth, which is a whole bunch of new blooms for the second flush, which is great. So we do not hard prune Group 2, only light trimming and reshaping. Very simply, we don't prune it to the ground or anything crazy like that. So Group 2, that's what I mostly have. All right, so next is Group 3, which is fall blooming clematis. I have one fall blooming clematis, and these are the ones that they bloom only on new growth. So this is the particular group that you want to hard prune. You want to hard prune it to about 12 inches above the ground at the end of the fall, early winter. And then that will force brand new shoots to come up in the spring. And since it blooms on new growth, all of that new growth that comes up will be blooming, which is great. This is also the Group 3. You don't want to leave it alone. This is not the vine you want to ignore, because if you ignore Group 3 clematises, it will just become a hot, tangled mess. Now, I don't own any Group 1s. I do own several Group 2s. I own a Dr. Rupel, which is like a really pretty pink variety. I own an HF Young, which is a violet, a really pretty violet. I own a Belle de Woking or Walking, which is a very pale pinkish lavender color, and Bee's Jubilee, which I actually think looks a lot like Dr. Rupel. And then I own one Group 3, which is the Jackmani, and that's a beautiful purple one that I planted at the base of my red rose. Why can't I think of what that name is? I'll put it down below. One of my Don Juan red rose, red climbing rose, planted at the base of that, so that hopefully at some point in time I might have a mix of purple and red blooms. Now, I just went through Group 1, 2, and 3, talking about the different pruning for those. However, if this is the first year for your clematis, if you just planted them, do not prune them. Allow them to go through their first spring in your garden, and then you can prune them starting the following year. So that's super important to remember. Most of mine, like my Group 3, Jackmani, which is the one that we would prune around this time, late fall, early winter, we would prune it to about 12 inches above the ground. That's the only one I would be pruning at this point in time. However, I just planted it this year and it actually has not even been through a complete spring with me, right? Because I started it from bare root and I really only planted it during, I guess, late spring, early summer. And so it hasn't even been in my garden for a full year. So it is not a good time to go ahead and prune that, as it has not been in my garden for a year. So that's super important to remember. All of this pruning is out the window if your plant is less than a year old in your garden. Okay, so you can probably tell we're not actually pruning any clematis today. However, I've had so many questions about clematis. I thought it was very important to just go ahead and go over that with you, because I just didn't want people to go cut back their clematis that did not need to be cut back. You know, a lot of them, if you cut them back in the winter, with the exception of group 3, you're going to be sacrificing a lot of blooms in the spring. So just really, really important. So a lot of people are like, how do I tell what group my clematis is in? Well, if you know the name of your clematis, you can Google it and find out what group it's in. If you don't know the name of your clematis, then you're going to have to do a little bit of investigating and observation with your clematis. When spring comes around, you need to go ahead and look and tag any of the old wood, any of the wood that's already there, the branching that's already there, tie a little string on it or whatever, okay? And then as it goes along for the spring and starts blooming, you can go and see, are the blooms on the old wood that have the string tied on it, or are they on the new wood, on the new growth? And you can kind of tell what you have based on that, all right? If you get blooms on old wood only, then you know you have a group 1. If you get blooms on old wood and new wood, you know you have a group 2. And if you get blooms on only new wood, then you know you have a group 3. And so that should make it a little bit easier if you don't know the actual variety. It takes a little bit of observation and investigation, but that's okay. If you have already trimmed or pruned your clematis, it's not the end of the world. You're fine. You just might be sacrificing a year of blooms, which is okay. You didn't kill the plant. You're fine. You're totally fine. So don't get all upset with yourself or anything, because some people I had talked to have already pruned their clematis, and that's totally fine. The plant's not dead and you will be able to have it for the future, just maybe not as many blooms next year. Okay. With that being said on the clematis, I'm obsessed with clematis. I want to add more to my garden next year because it's just such a really cool plant. I am really wanting to focus on layering it with additional climbing vines. So that's going to be something that's going to be really fun next year. I'll be starting more of those from bare root because I've had the most luck with those. Plus, they're more cost effective than buying the full-size plant. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I started a bunch of ornamental millet from seed this last year for my fall garden. And now all of that is coming to fruition and it has produced its own seeds now that are ready for harvest. So I'm super excited. Okay, we are out on the front garden and this is all my ornamental millet right here. And you can see that a lot of this is coming to fruition and starting to dry. So here's the actual little bitty seeds, just like that. And they're basically like in these little inside pods, which is really cool. So when I bought these this last year, they were pretty expensive. You didn't get very many seeds. So I'm really excited to just kind of harvest these on my own. Now these plants are starting to get browned out and dried, and truthfully, I'm within a few days of pulling all this out, which I know you guys are going to be like, what? It's so pretty still. It is so pretty still, y'all, but we're having abnormally warm weather, and I would already be putting in my violas at this point, my violas and my pansies. I haven't been able to do that because everything looks like this still. I mean, look at the front of my garden. Whose garden looks like this in mid-November, right? Check out that gorgeous mum there. Concolias. I mean, look at these colors. Just stunning. Absolutely beautiful. But nothing has died back because we haven't had any cold snaps. We are expecting our first cold snap next week, but I want to go ahead and harvest the millet, bring it in. Now, some of it I don't think is ready. This one feels really tight still, right? So it's still got some of its debris on it, but this feels really tight as I run my thumb over it. Whereas like the one we were just looking at, See how this one feels like loose? See how easy it is to move around? This is the one that's ready for harvest. So I don't think they're going to harvest all of them, only the ones that are loose like that. I think it'll be good. And my goal is really to get in here and harvest these before they all start dropping. You see how like all these seeds look like they've come up to the surface? I don't want them all dropping in here and then my having a ton of millet in this space next year. I want to control where the millet is going. So let's go ahead and get started on harvesting. I've actually been a little anxious that it's been so warm, which I know sounds just silly, right? But I'm tired. Like I'm ready to be done. So I've just got a plastic bag. I'm just really kind of looking at some of these. And as long as they're kind of loose and pliable at the bottom, I feel comfortable harvesting them. If they feel tight, then I'm going to leave them. And I might leave a few just for next week anyway. Just give me something to do. But these are all annuals and they will not make it through the first freeze. All right. That looks good. I can't wait to plant up this space with violas and pansies. I feel behind because usually I've got this all cleared up and I've got my violas and pansies in and I'm preparing to put out my Christmas decor. And I mean, it's hot. I'm in this long sleeve shirt. I'm burning up. It's hot. So the cool weather will be coming through next week and we will be proceeding into colder weather. We should not be going back to shorts weather, which would be nice for a little while. So let's go inside and work with these. Okay, now you can harvest these in a couple of different ways. You can just leave them just like this. Stick them in the bag, make sure the bag is open and just allow them to dry in there, no problem. You can come through like what I'm doing right here and just start scraping and all the seeds just kind of start falling off. I'm afraid I'm going to make a giant mess. But they all just start falling off just like that. They actually look like, for lack of a better description, they look like little ticks, which is not awesome. But you can see how cool these are just coming off. I still think that these need just a touch longer drying time. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just pull out these seed pods real quick and just leave them just like that. I'm going to leave them out in circulating air so that they can just dry here. And I think that maybe in a day or so, they'll be easier to harvest. They won't be as tight. Ooh, it does feel a little prickly. So I think that that's something to note as well. But it looks to me like I'm going to get hundreds and hundreds of seeds, which I think will be really, really cool, especially considering how much I paid. I forget how much I paid. I'll put it down below. I remember it being pricey because I wanted like 20. And so this should definitely be more than enough seeds for next year for mine and for Kristen's garden if she wants as well. But very exciting. Got to these before they dropped into my garden. That was one of my big concerns. I wanted to make sure that I got to that. I've got a few more left that I might let them go through the freeze and then I'll pull them at that point in time. But yeah, very excited to have all this ornamental millet from next year. Now, once I'm done, I'm going to put them in a glass container. Let me show you. I will store them in one of my glass seed containers. These were really fun to make. This one right here is coneflower, and I made these, I don't know, maybe late summer, I guess. And they're just beautiful, and I really, really enjoyed them. I made them out of recycled jars and then added these cute little toppers. I'll drop the link to that video below if you're interested. So I will, once these are dried and good to go, I will store these in a glass container that is airtight until we are ready to utilize them next year. Okay, so we're in my kitchen. I don't usually get to see my kitchen very often. My birthday was on Sunday, and we got the house cleaned on Monday as a present for me, which is very exciting. So my house is clean right now. My kitchen never looks like this. So I just want to be super upfront about that. I'm looking for some antibacterial soap, but I don't really see any. So we'll use my Mrs. Meyer's. So what we're gonna do is I have all of my beautiful Birdhouse gourds that I grew. Super pretty, smaller than I was hoping. However, I do have plans for them. I don't think these are gonna necessarily be turned into little birdhouses, but I do want to cure and dry them so I can use them for decor for next fall. Because can you imagine these being tucked in beautiful arrangements? And the arrangements, these will turn a beautiful brown color. Yeah, they'll turn a beautiful brown color as they cure. But there is a process to getting them to cure properly. One of the first things you need to do is you need to wash them. And we're not trying to like scrub the surface like super hard. We're really just trying to clean them up. And we don't want it to really soak a long time. Actually, I'll use some. Here's some. We don't want them to soak a long time. I'm using just a basic like dish soap on them because we're not trying to introduce a whole bunch of new moisture. But I do want to clean them with soap. The water is kind of medium warm. And then I'm going to put them out on a drying pad that I would use for like dishes. And we will allow them to dry there. Once those are dry, then I'm going to pull them back over into the workspace. And we're going to wipe them down with alcohol. And then I'm going to show you how to hang them up to start curing them outside for about a week. Now, when you're cleaning these, you're looking for a few different things. If any spots feel mushy, throw it out. Throw out the whole gourd because that means it's already on its way to rotting. So anything that feels mushy. Now, if it has mars or scars like this one does, that's okay as long as it's not all the way through to the center of the gourd. The goal on this is to make sure that the gourds are not open in the inside, that there's no way any kind of bacteria or anything can get to the inside of the gourd. I just picked up this dish soap, which is balsam fir scented from Home Goods, and spiced apple kitchen refresher or cleaner. That would be really fun. This one has a scar, so we'll keep an eye on that. It doesn't feel soft there, so I think it's okay. But that's definitely a spot that I'm going to want to check on as I continue the curing process. The curing process is not quick at all. Ooh, there's a spider in there. The curing process is not quick whatsoever, so prepare yourself for that. But these will have until next fall to cure. And they can take a long time depending on your relative temperatures, humidity. So it's not like you can just be like, it's only this certain amount of time with these. It's really gonna be different for all people. But I will say the drier, so very low humidity areas and warmer are going to be better for these in the long run. All right, and we'll just let those dry and then we'll come back and wipe them down with alcohol. Okay, so I let these dry about half an hour. So at this point in time, you could just stop like this. You don't actually have to do this extra step. I'm just don't have as many as I would like, and so I want to try to ensure that they do as well as they can. So one of the things you can do, and I put on an apron, and I'm working on an old towel, and I've just got an old kitchen towel, is I've got rubbing alcohol. So I'm just going to add some rubbing alcohol to my towel, and I'm just really going to come through and I'm going to wipe these down really good, the surface. And that's just me getting rid of any additional bacteria that might be hanging out there. And this isn't an absolutely required step. If you do a really good job cleaning, they'll be fine. I just already had the rubbing alcohol, so I thought, hey, what the hell? I'll go ahead and do that. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that on. Hey, what the heck? Anyway, so do that and then let that dry as well. Cannot wait to grow gourds again next year. Really looking forward to it. Such a fun process. Even if these don't turn out, even if these don't cure properly, I'd still grow gourds again. I think they're just so fun. Start earlier next year. You definitely want to harvest your gourds before your first freeze. I waited until my vines died off. I do still have a few more. My first freeze isn't for a couple of weeks still because we're having an abnormally warm fall. All right, I'm gonna let those chill and then I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna hang them up outside for a week. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do before I go out there, because it's still pretty warm, is I'm gonna cut some pieces of twine and I'm just gonna tie a basic knot with the end of the twine onto the top of a gourd. I might have to tie them in the middle. I'm not going to tie it really heavy. I'm tie them in the middle, just like that. Okay, so basically I want to suspend my gourds in the air. You could just lay them on a flat surface, but you have to come out and turn them every day, and y'all know I'm not going to remember. Totally not going to remember that. So let me get up here. I'm going to tie to this hook over here, and we're going to run it all the way across the back porch. And I am going to be pulling this pretty tight. Sometimes I wonder what my neighbors think of me. All right, this should pull it down quite a bit, but I'm going to spread them out. Now remember, I'm doing this process because I'm going to forget to turn them every day. If you're good at remembering stuff like that, you can just lay them out in the sunshine. Something soft would work fine, and you need to come out and turn them every day. This, by hanging them, it allows them to have air around them freely. Great air circulation, which is really going to cut down on rotting. Now, you want to cure them outside for at least a week. Make sure they have really great airflow, lots of sunshine if possible. And then in a week, we'll bring them inside. I know my husband and my kids are going to come home and just be like, okay. Sounds about right. I'm always doing weird stuff. Sweet. Okay, so that was a fun process. Really excited about those. So once those have been outside for about a week, I will bring them inside, and I do intend on hanging them up in the grow room. Now, you can get away with not having them outside. You can go ahead and just bring them inside and get them started. I just wanted to follow everybody else's advice to a T to start off, since this is my very first time. And then the reason I'm going to be hanging them inside instead of just putting on my shelves or something is because, once again, you have to remember to turn them frequently so they can dry evenly all the way around. If you allow them to just sit on one side and you don't have the absolute perfect ideal conditions, then they're more likely to rot on that area that is touching the surface. So I do intend on hanging them up inside the grow room and allowing them just continue to cure throughout the rest of the year. And I probably won't be pulling those down. My guess is until May or June of next year would be my guess. But I will continue to walk you through the process. You're looking for two main things. You're looking for rot. That's when they become mushy. If they become mushy, it's a goner. It's done. Throw it away, throw it immediately, and get it away from the rest of the gourds. And then you're also looking for mold. And mold, which is a white, gray, black, kind of flaky growth on the outside of the gourds, is completely normal in their drying process. That is something, and you can just gently wipe that off with a little bit of a diluted bleach, like a 1 part to 10 parts diluted bleach. You can just wipe that off and kill it. You can use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, whatever. You can wipe that off if it gets too excessive. If it's not much, you can just like not stress about it. That'd be totally fine. If they start rotting or molding a lot, you perhaps don't want to have them inside. So that's something I will have to be keeping up with. If I see a lot of mold on these, then I'm going to have to move them outside because they're in my home. And I don't want to be breathing any more mold spores than I need to be breathing. However, I don't want to put them outside because I don't really necessarily have a dry enough space outside. My garage gets too cold. It's too cold and too inconsistent. I could put them on my porches, but once again, we're having deep changes in temperatures right now, which is not good for the gourds. They need a more consistent temperature throughout the entire season. So we'll try drying them inside, and if that doesn't work and I'm forced to move them out to the garage or the back porch, we will do that as well. All right, you guys, very interesting video today, talking about pruning clematis. So I just wanted to get to you guys before you started hacking away at the clematis. You just need to confirm whether your clematis is group 1, group 2, or group 3. If you're not sure and you have to wait to observe, just wait. Don't prune anything. Just wait and see what happens in the spring. Observe when your blooms are coming, and then from there you can figure out whether yours is group 1, 2, or 3. And then also we harvested some ornamental millet seed, which is very exciting to have so much for next year. I cannot wait for the fall garden already. And I think it's gonna be really fun. I kind of want to fill a raised bed with millet next year. I think might be super cool. So I might look into that and play along with that. And then beginning to prep these birdhouse gourds for drying and curing. I'm so excited. I cannot wait for this process, and I'm really hoping that they turn out and that I can do this year after year and have this beautiful collection of dried gourds for all my fall decor. All right, you guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what's going on with you. Lots of y'all are done gardening. If you're in the North Texas area, we are dying to be done with gardening. We are so tired. I am ready for my garden to go to bed because I have plans. I'm already planning for next one. I've kind of already detached myself from the current garden, and I kind of just want it to all go to sleep and move on. But yeah, we are expecting some cooler weather sometime next week. I'm hoping we get our first freeze by the end of November, which would be a couple of weeks late for us. But yeah, it is all coming along. But let me know what you guys are doing in your garden. And if you're not in your garden, what you're doing to plan for your next garden. As always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Every time you like and comment, it helps grow the channel so much. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, just drop me an emoji below letting me know that you made it to the end of the video and that you say hi. And make sure that you're hitting that notification bell that's right beside the subscribe button so that you get a notification every time I have a new video uploaded. And be sure to check me out on my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.